Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life is wrestling.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Wrestling is Life is Wrestling with Cody Deaner. I am Cody Deaner, and I am a professional wrestler. I'm a professional wrestling producer. I'm a professional traveling motivational speaker. I'm a dad of 4 awesome kids and a husband to an amazing and beautiful wife. And I am a professional podcaster. I'm going to tell you why I'm a professional here in a minute. Before I tell you about that, I just have to say thank you to everybody who's been rating, reviewing, and subscribing to this podcast on your platform of choice. The number one thing that I've been getting from people as I travel and do my independent wrestling shows, run into fans at Impact Wrestling at their events, or I'm talking to kids at schools that I'm going into and they're checking out this podcast. The number one thing that I'm hearing from fans and listeners is this podcast is refreshing because it's new and it's different. It's different than any other wrestling podcast that I've ever listened to and I'm listening to right now on my feed. I just want to say thank you to the people that have taken the time out of their day to either message me or approach me at an event and tell me how much they're enjoying this podcast. It was my goal from the very beginning to make it different. And it was my hope that I could bring something different and new and refreshing to my listeners. And based on the feedback that I've been getting, that's what's happening. So thank you to everybody who's listening. If you're listening to this right now and you want to help me out, take a screenshot, put it up on your social media, and I'll share it with my fans, and we'll spread the love and let more people know about Wrestling is Life is Wrestling. Other ways you can support is going over to my Patreon at patreon.com/Cody Deaner. All the archives of all the previous episodes, as well as each interview that I do, each conversation is going to come at you early and ad free. So today's guest, which is part 1, and then part 2 of next week with the guest, you've already heard it if you're a patron, and you can go check it out and listen to it right now. Sign up. There's a bunch of different levels. That's over at patreon.com/Cody Deaner. As a bunch of other cool behind the scenes private stuff that I only share with my patrons. Again, that's patreon.com/Cody Deaner. If you want a t-shirt, head on over to prowrestlingtees.com/Cody Deaner. Support me there. Or you can get a private video message from me to you or a family member at cameo.com/Cody Deaner. Thank you for all of those people that have been supporting me so far. I have something new that I need your support with, and I've got a huge announcement. I am super excited about this because you've been hearing me, if you've been listening to the previous episodes, me talking about, hey, if you're a business and you want to sponsor me and you want to do business with my business, and we'll talk about how we can do business for you by going to ads at CodyDeaner.com or go to CodyDeaner.com/podcast and let's talk business. Well, I'm very excited to announce that I have my very first major sponsorship, and it's special in a lot of ways. Let me tell you about Rest When Dead Clothing. If you are just listening to this right now, you just got the audio, and you want to see the video of this, go on over to youtube.com/Cody Deaner podcast, and you'll see this wicked, awesome Rest When Dead hat I'm wearing. The really cool t-shirt that's hanging in the background, or the one that I'm wearing right now. Check that out. If you want to learn more about Rest When Dead Clothing, who is a major sponsor of this show, please go to restwhendead.ca. Also, check out all their swag on Instagram at Rest When Dead Clothing. I am now a proud sponsored athlete of Rest When Dead Clothing. Now, that is special within itself, but I want to tell you why I'm partnering with these guys. Because, look, I'm not just partnering with them because they said, hey, we love your podcast and we love what you're doing on Impact Wrestling, and we love that you're traveling all across Canada, speaking to kids and doing indies all over North America, and we want to partner with you. That happened, but that's not the reason that I said, yes, let's do this. Number one, Rest When Dead Clothing is a Canadian company. They're based out of Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, and I've been to Saskatchewan many times speaking and wrestling, and I love that province. For my American listeners, you've maybe heard about Saskatchewan when you hear wrestlers talking about the crazy northern road stories that they've gone on with Calgary Stampede wrestling, and you've got often the traveling going through Saskatchewan. Look, these guys are a small business, and I'm a small business. I'm an entrepreneur. These guys at Rest When Dead, they're entrepreneurs, and they have decided that they want to put out really cool, high quality swag. That's the first thing that I noticed when I was checking out their gear. This is high quality stuff. This is not cheap. Let's try to make a whole bunch of profit margin. No, they are focused on quality. Not only that, they source most of their items right here in North America because they want to contribute to local businesses and promote the growth of the local economy. Not only that, they share a majority of their profits with dedicated various sponsors and donations within the fitness industry in North America. So if you buy their swag, you are promoting local health and wellness in so many communities across Canada and North America as a whole. These guys want to give back. So I don't say yes to everybody. Guys, I've actually had a variety of emails and people reach out to me before I heard from Rest When Dead, and I said no. I said no to these people because I didn't believe in the product that they wanted to sponsor and have me promote on this podcast, and I just didn't think it was a good fit. I didn't want to attach my name to them. When I met the folks at Rest When Dead and have been talking with them, discussing this sponsorship and this partnership together, I had to say yes, not just because of the things that I just said, but because I believe in this company. I believe what they represent. I want to support local. I want to promote local, and I want to promote Canadian because I am a proud Canadian. We have a huge Canadian listenership. We're a chart topping podcast in Canada, guys, in the wrestling category. Like, I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud to say that I am now partnered with Rest When Dead Clothing Company. So you're going to be seeing me promoting their swag here on the podcast. You go watch me, follow me at Cody Deaner on my socials, and you're going to learn a whole bunch more about why this company is so awesome. And you can go see for yourself. Check them out, guys. Like I said, restwhendead.ca and on Instagram at restwhendead clothing. So thank you, Rest When Dead. I'm super excited about this partnership and everything that you guys are doing as a company and everything that we're going to do together moving forward in this partnership. All right, let's talk about today's guest. This is why you're here. You're here to listen to part one with my friend David Sahadi. Now, there's some people that haven't read the description yet of this episode. You just got it in your feed. Thank you. And you're wondering to yourself, who's David Sahadi? I don't know David Sahadi because I've never seen David Sahadi wrestle in a ring before. Well, that's because you haven't seen him wrestle in the ring before, because he is my very first guest who's not an in-ring performer. I've wanted to, and I've been telling you this over the last couple of weeks, that I got some guys in the pipeline here that I'm going to be talking to that are very closely connected to professional wrestling, but aren't in-ring performers. This is my very first non-wrestling guest, but he is a professional wrestling behind-the-scenes guru. This guy is a director. He's a creative director of Impact Wrestling. He's a producer, and this guy has done it all. Let me just tell you a couple things that this guy has done, and you will realize, oh my God, I do know who David Sahadi is. I just didn't realize it because I don't follow all the behind-the-scenes stuff. If you're a wrestling fan that remembers back during the Attitude Era, the classic Monday Night Raw intro where Stone Cold is walking in this like warehouse and there's flames and pyro and explosions going off, that classic Monday Night Raw intro. Guess who created that, came up with it, filmed it, and did it all? David Sahadi. There was some amazing really cool promo packages back in the day that were voiced over by Classy Freddie Blassie. Some of my old school fans will know who that is, and some of the Attitude Era people will go, "Oh, I know exactly the promo you're talking about." Where it's that voiceover of Classy Freddie Blassie. Guess who filmed that, created that, came up with that entire concept? David Sahadi. Remember those really cool pay-per-view commercials when you were going through your pay-per-view program and they would do these commercials that were like really outside the box thinking? Like, I think it was a SummerSlam one where Brock Lesnar runs into the water and gives an F5 to a shark. And they do all these things where like these wrestlers are like fish out of water and that's not their normal circumstance. Guess who came up with all those original ideas and concepts? David Sahadi. I could continue and keep going on, but you're going to hear us talk about these things in part 1 and part 2 this week and next week with my friend David Sahadi. I met David many years ago when I was working with TNA, and we've struck up a very close friendship over the last number of years that I've been working with Impact Wrestling. And we've had so many good life conversations at every single Impact Wrestling event that I do and that Sahadi is on. So I knew when I started this project that my first non-wrestling guest, like non-wrestler as a guest, had to be David Sahadi. So enjoy this, guys. This is a very insightful, very vulnerable conversation that you're going to listen to me have today with David Sahadi. And I'd love to know what you think. Hit me up at Cody Deaner on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and let me know what you think. But also let David know what you think. Find him on Instagram at Sahadi3. That's Sahadi 3. I know he would love to hear what you think of today's conversation and what's the main thing you were able to take away from it. Because I know at least one of you needs to hear some of the things that you're going to hear right now with part 1 with my friend, David Sahadi. All right, brother. Thank you for doing this, man.
Cody, thank you for having me, brother.
I really appreciate this very, very much. We've been trying to make this happen for a while, and we're both busy men.
Yes, we are.
In
Can I
our
just
lives.
one thing off the bat?
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna ask me one thing off the bat. I like that. I haven't had that happen yet, Sahadi.
Your
So
voice
yeah.
right now sounds so much better than it does on headsets and the comms at TV. Oh, it's so clear and so crystalline, and it's wonderful.
Oh, that's wonderful. So for the fans that have no idea what Sahadi's talking about, we work together at Impact Wrestling, and David Sahadi is a very super talented director, producer, does a whole bunch of stuff behind the scenes at Impact, and has a great history in the wrestling business that we're going to talk about today. And I am producing at Impact Wrestling, and also Sahadi, just so you know, this isn't the intro to you. I just put you over for like the last 5 minutes in the opening of the show. So I know you didn't hear it, but it was 5 minutes of me putting you over, brother.
You're gonna embarrass me. I'm gonna be humble.
So we've been working together for many years. So I'm the guy on the headset that does the production that's talking to Sahadi, who's directing the show, producing the show. He's got a much busier, crazier job than me. I'm just talking to him through the comms, as he said. So he's saying that it's much clearer, and that's his reference, is that we work together in a production capacity at Impact, which is really where we met and struck up our friendship. And you were, Sahadi, one of the very first guys I thought of when I decided to do this podcast. I knew I wanted David Sahadi on this show, and you are my very first non-wrestler as a guest. Mm-hmm. I want to have some people that are involved in wrestling that aren't wrestlers. And I knew the very first non-wrestler that I wanted on my show was 100% David Sahadi. So
you're making me speechless, Cody.
So I'm not expecting you to respond, other than I just want to start off the hop by saying thank you. And also to let people know, I mean, they know the concept of the show, and I've talked to you a little bit about the concept of the show, but it's about you know, the intersection between wrestling and life, and the lessons that we've learned about ourselves through being involved in wrestling. And then also how we sometimes bring our life into the wrestling world that we're also in. And I've had so many good life conversations with people in the wrestling business. And those people that I've had those conversations with are the people that kind of started at the top of my list of wanting to talk to. And you're one of those people. We have talks and we talk about wrestling, but usually not actually. A lot of times when we're talking about wrestling, we don't just chat about sports and the New York Jets and wrestling. We're talking about real life stuff. So I knew
spiritual stuff too. Yeah,
exactly. Yes. And that's
on a different level than sports or anything else.
Yeah, man. And you're somebody that thinks about those things deeply and knows the importance of, you know, spiritual things outside of ourselves, the things that kind of, in my opinion, really matter about life. You're somebody that thinks deeply about those things, and which is one of the many reasons I wanted to have you on the show. So that's why we're here. So what I like to do, Sahadi, is I don't really have an agenda. I mean, I have questions and stuff here, but I mean, if I don't get to these questions, it doesn't matter. This is more of a conversation. But I have some things.
Can I start off?
Yeah. Go ahead. Sure, go ahead.
First of all, for those that don't know, Cody and I are really good friends. I mean, he's one of my favorite people in the entire wrestling business. But I've always respected you, Cody, before we became friends. I always loved your work ethic, your style, your passion, how much you cared. Now I got a question for you because it's something I want to say about me. But what is my title? What do I do for a living?
Oh, this is a good question because
you'll be surprised by the answer when I tell you what my title is. But go ahead.
Okay, I'll take a stab at it because this is one of my questions I was going to ask you, but I actually wasn't going to ask you this on air. I was going to ask you before and go, wait, what's your official job title? Like, are you like the head? I'm going to say head of director and head of television show production.
Well, Eric Tompkins is the head of TV production. My
okay
official title with Impact is creative director, which means I write the campaigns and the cold opens with Eric Tompkins, and also the director of the show. Right. That's my title, Cody. But this summer when we had Slammiversary at St. Clair College, there was a gaffer, a young lady. You know, we bring a lot of production people with us, but we also like hire a lot of locals as well too. And it's our second day of TV, and I was walking around wearing my typical "He Hate Me" jersey, which I like on game days. Mm-hmm. And she goes, "What do you do for a living?" Because she obviously didn't know where I was. And I said, "I heal, I help, and I uplift others. That's my job." And she goes, "Really? Then why are you here today?" And I said, "Oh, I'm also the director of the show, but that's my second job." And for the past 10 years, I just get so much joy out of seeing someone who's down and helping pick them up. Because when you pick them up and you bend over to, you know, figuratively pick somebody up, you rise yourself as well. And it's a beautiful thing. And it means more to me than anything. That's why I want to start writing books and doing some things very inspirational inside the wrestling world and also outside.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. So can you say that again? You told her that you are
that I help, I heal, and I uplift others.
I love that.
Help, uplift, and that's what it's all about, Cody. Because it comes back to you. It really does, and that's not why we do it. I remember writing a saying that the more we give, the more we get, and the more we get, the more we get to give. And it's like I wish there are more people in society that are like that today, but it seems to be very, don't be negative, very world filled with self-absorbed people.
Yeah. So where does that mindset come from? I feel the same way. I do both. I look for opportunities like that in wrestling by even other wrestlers that I work with in the locker room. And if I see somebody that's down, I try to help them. But then I also do a lot of work with kids, and I travel to schools and I do that. Like, I know for me, I think I got a lot of those things from my mother, who was a teacher, and my grandmother. And I also grew up in in a broken home with a kind of a tumultuous upbringing. So I didn't want any. I feel like I kind of have a sense of when I can see another kid going through some of the similar things I went through. So like I'm very sensitive to that. Where does that come from? Your upbringing where you grew up, or where does that come from,
No,
Sahadi?
because everybody in my family is different. All my brothers and sisters. I've always been a nurturer my whole life, and I don't know why, but I like helping people. And if I see a girl cry, even a stranger, I'm gonna walk over and say, "What's going on? Is there anything I can do to help?" And it's just my nature. It's just who I am. And I'm not used to being on the receiving end of it, Cody. This happened 3 nights ago. My dad passed, as you know, 6 months ago, and it was very tough because he was not just my father; he was my best friend. He was my soulmate. And we would talk all the time during football season, 10 times a day, and during the Jets game, almost the entire game. And it was the first year I couldn't do that. And it finally hit me 3 days ago. I just broke down and was crying at my favorite bar across the street, Stir. And my serving friends are coming over and giving me hugs. I'm just saying, like, it was building up and it was going to happen. I blow my nose. And there's this middle-aged couple sitting next to me. And the man, after I'm done crying, says, "Excuse me, my friend, but I can see that you're emotionally disturbed about something and you're very sad. It's none of my business, but can I at least buy you a drink to make you feel better?" And I said, "Sure." And we had the greatest conversation, Cody, for like an hour. He and his wife, and they're moving to Chattanooga. They were from Atlanta. And it was their first time being displaced. But to be on the receiving end of it, hey, I wasn't used to it because I'm usually the one who's the nurturer and the giver and the one to take care of people. But it felt so great too to know that there are other people out there like you and I.
Yeah, man. I think that's so important to also be like looking for those opportunities. Now I'm part of me wants to say I'm surprised by you saying that, but I'm not surprised because I've known you and you've always been like that. But if somebody just said, okay, there's this guy, his name's David Sahadi. He works in the wrestling business and he grew up in New York in the 1960s. What do you think he's like? And I don't think I think the stereotype would be, well, he's a New Yorker that grew up in the 60s. I mean, he's not a kind nurturer looking for ways to uplift and heal people. So like you're breaking a stereotype, I think, Sahadi. So
I know I am. I'm the cranky, curmudgeon old man who bitches about everything. If people did not met me.
So
but even in the wrestling world, in the locker room, you see me. It's like I'm always going up to wrestlers, even ones that I'm not close with, like as I am with you, and just like always giving them positivity and props and saying, "Hey, you did really well last night in the ring," or "Hey, man, I love that promo and the way you did this." And some people say thank you, and so I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yes." And I just like to uplift, and that's something that is not quantitative or something that you can measure, but it does bring important value. Now, I don't do it because I'm trying to gain props. I just try to lift up other people.
yeah.
And that's wherever I go. I'm going to walk into my favorite restaurant across the street about 6 o'clock, and I'm just going to uplift my friends that are working and make their stressful nights a little bit less stressful, and that's it.
Yeah, man, I love it. So I want to talk wrestling. I mean, we're also going to talk about the stuff that we're talking about now, but because they're intertwined. This is Wrestling is Life is Wrestling. But I'm curious because I've never actually asked you this before in our many conversations. Like, what made you fall in love with wrestling in the first place? Like, what hooked you? What started that?
You're going to love this. Is there more to the question, or should I start?
No, that's you can start. That's the question. I just want to know what made you fall in love with it.
I loved wrestling back in the early 1980s when it was on WPIX in New York. It was syndicated, and there are characters like George the Animal Steel, Captain Lou Albano, Freddie Blassie was a manager, the Grand Wizard. You had Sergeant Slaughter, Gorilla Monsoon. I was just fascinated by these characters. And the funny thing is, Kurt, that once I blew up in the 80s, with the first couple of WrestleManias, I couldn't stand it. I thought it was so cartoony that I stopped watching. I did not like it at all. I got my first job at NBC Sports, courtesy of my father, of course, because I love sports. And when I was there, the lead producer for Major League Baseball, John Filippelli, was working for Kevin Dunn. For Vince McMahon. He was what Kevin Dunn is right now.
Oh, okay.
courted me and he hired me, and I'm like, I really don't want to go. I mean, it's a cartoony world. But made me an offer that I asked NBC to even like come like 1/3 of the way, and they wouldn't even do that because they're calling my bluff. They never thought that would be the peacock for the WWF, and I felt disrespected, so I left. And my first day on the job, I'm seeing the Doink, the Clown, Duke the Dumpster Drosy, Kamala, who's reading the New York Times. He never spoke on TV. He's from the jungles of Africa, but like he's telling me all about stocks. And I fell in love with the talent. I fell in love with the feeling of family, and that's when I really started to fall in love with professional wrestling. It wasn't until I was actually in there that joy blossomed and grew. And Cody, I came from a sports background, NBC Sports. So
yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
Bring a sports background to wrestling. I wanted people to, let them know that you guys are true athletes. You're not just characters, and actors playing this game. That you really are athletes. And one of the first spots I did that said that was the Attitude spot, where it's all the shots of different wrestlers saying, I know what you're thinking. I'm not really an athlete. I'm just a wrestler. Well, I did this, I did that, I did that. I played in 2 Super Bowls, so it's just my whole feeling was to make it feel real and less cartoony.
Do you work hard? Are you a focused, determined, never say die type of person? Well, you need the right clothes to match that mindset. You need to check out Rest When Dead clothing. And you need to listen to me right now, but not just me tell you about this. You need to listen to one of my daughters. Her name is?
River.
And how old are you, River?
12.
Well, this 12-year-old daughter of mine, River, is going to help me tell you about Rest When Dead. It is a fitness and lifestyle apparel company for the ones who never quit. They're a cutting-edge fitness apparel company that embodies the spirit of hard work and determination.
With a strong focus on cool designs, high-quality materials, and exceptional fit, Rest When Dead caters to individuals leading a demanding and active lifestyle.
At Rest When Dead, they understand that those who embrace a rigorous daily routine require workout and lifestyle attire that reflects their unique personality. That's why their design team works tirelessly to create innovative and stylish designs that make a bold statement, setting you apart from the crowd.
Rest When Dead is more than just a fitness apparel brand. It's a lifestyle. They celebrate the hard-working individuals who strive for greatness in all aspects of their lives.
Their clothing is a symbol of dedication, perseverance, and the pursuit of excellence. So whether you're hitting the gym,
going for a run,
or simply embracing your hard-working lifestyle,
Rest When Dead is here to provide you with the highest quality, stylish, and comfortable apparel
that embodies this essence. It's time to tell the world you will
Rest When Dead.
Rest When Dead is a wicked awesome Canadian company that ships worldwide. Follow them on Instagram at Rest When Dead Clothing. Check out their website at restwhendead.ca. That's
restwhendead.ca.
And that eventually led to the beginning of the Attitude Era.
Yes.
And building it, Cody, my gosh, because WWE was at rock bottom at the end of 1992, 93 when I joined. And to build something like we're doing now at Impact. It's so satisfying when you reach the top, and you get so high and become the number 1 rated show on TV. A core of viewers had some major part of that. I would rather go to a company and help build it, Cody, than to join a company that's already doing well and just pick the meat off the carcass. Or better analogy than that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Okay, so I want to back up a little bit. You said a lot, and you're jumping into so many some good stuff. Like you're dropping names like Kamala and Doink the Clown and the whole '92 era. Like, oh, that's just fascinating because there's not a lot. I think there's not a lot of that era stuff that fans have access to.
Yeah.
But you kind of just mentioned in passing that you work for NBC Sports, which is a freaking huge deal. Yeah. Like that's enormous. So so you'd said that's where your dad came in, right? Like your dad helped you get that position or put a word in for you, or how did that come about then?
My dad knew friends there, and he put the word in for me. And what I'm going to tell you is also a life lesson for any of the youngsters out there that are in their 20s and what they want to do in life.
Okay,
I
good.
graduated college as a math major, and I hated math by the time I was my senior year in college. So I didn't have a job for the first year. I was painting houses and doing handyman kind of work. And my dad got me a job as a logger at NBC. That means I'd watch 2 football games every Sunday, write down the time codes when a play happened and what the play was, so they can make highlights from that. And because I love sports, I loved what I was doing, Cody. And I went from being a gopher, getting coffee for Bob Costas and being a logger for football games, to within 1 year being hired full time, and within 2 years after that becoming the head of on-air promotion for NBC Sports, producing campaigns for the NFL, the NBA, the 1992 Barcelona games. I was the youngest person ever to have that title. And I loved doing what I was doing, and that's why it wasn't work, it was a joy. So for anybody out there who says, I don't know what I want to do with my life, just look inside and say, what brings me joy? What are my hobbies? What makes my heart, like shine bright? And then get an entry-level job in that field, and you will ascend like a shooting star because you're doing something that you love and something that comes from the heart. You're not just trying to make a paycheck.
Oh man, what good advice. I was just talking the other day with somebody about this, and I heard a really good quote that stuck with me. It's very simple, but somebody had said that, if you want to be happy, because there's a lot of people that are miserable in their jobs, and you know this, Sahadi. We've seen these people, we know these people, and unfortunately, I think it's a lot of the majority of the people that I meet that they find joy in other things, but they don't have joy in their job. But I heard this person say that if you find something that you would do for free and then make that your career, then you will never have a sad day in your life.
I love that. Basically what I said, but I like the way you worded that. That is awesome.
So it's like you found like you said you were passionate about sports, and then you weren't passionate about getting somebody coffee, I'm assuming, but you were involved in something.
I actually enjoy doing that because Bob Costas said to me the very first day, he said, son, can you get me coffee? And I said, sure. How do you like it, Mr. Costas? And he goes, black, one, sweet and low. And so the next week, hey, son, can you get me a cup of coffee? I said, black with one, sweet and low, right, Mr. Costas? And he's like, how do you know? And I said, it's my job to remember. And I met O.J. Simpson, who my dad drafted, by the way. He knew my dad, so he knew me. So there were a lot of laughs in between getting the coffee and doing some of the, errands and stuff for the towns. And we'd always meet at this bar called the Hurley's when the show was over on Sunday night, all the highlight show, and just, all get together and grab a couple of beers and talk about it. So I love doing the dirty stuff, because, again, I was in a field where I'm getting coffee for Bob Costas, or I'm getting a sandwich for O.J. Simpson. It's not like I'm getting it for, nobodies.
Sure, and you're displaying humility in that, right? I think there's some people that they feel like they're above getting coffee for anybody, and they would focus on that, like, oh, I'm just getting coffee for somebody. But you're
right now, if you ask me to at TV, so I'll get really busy, give me a cup of coffee. I would. It's humility in helping somebody.
I think that's another important lesson, like you said to young people, like if you don't know what you want to do, find something that brings you true joy and work towards that. And if it's a hobby, do an entry level and try to work your way up. I think the next step that I'm getting from your experience that you're talking about is once you get into there, I think in a lot of jobs and careers, people try to find the easy way to ascension. And sometimes that means being negative or pulling somebody else down to get up in their position. Whereas everything you're saying is you're just enjoying your job. You're being positive, and there's a lot of laughs in between things you said. Like I feel like it's the positivity that got you to where you were, not negativity.
No, people see the positivity. They do it work. They see that. You've seen it with me backstage.
Yes.
And getting to what you're saying about, helping other people or not. Here's some wisdom from Terry Taylor. He doesn't have much, but this is one thing he told me, and it sticks with me to this day. But He said there are two ways to have the tallest building in town. One is to tear down all the taller buildings around you, down. The other is to build it. And I like to be a builder, not a destroyer. I don't want to rise because I'm knocking down others or taking other people out. I want to rise because I am growing and I am building. And Cody, are we not always working on ourselves, striving to become a better person, a better human being? Because the minute we stop, it's just like life is over. But I'm always trying. I want to be a better person tonight than I am right now. I want to be a better person tomorrow than I will be tonight. And we're all humans. We all have bad days, but that's my ambitions and my intentions.
Absolutely. And you have to be intentional about that, right? Yes. I think it's so important that you, if you're going to have that mindset. I know for me, I have bad days sometimes, and it's like, no, you have to be very intentional with maintaining and keeping that mindset. And it's also important the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And that can help keep you with that. You said at the beginning, you said your dad was, he was your best friend. He was your soulmate. Did he instill that in you? Did he help uplift you, help you keep that positive mindset through hard times?
He's like me in many ways. He was always a giver. He was always a nurturer. He would go to, a store and somebody would say, have a nice day. And he'd say, you have a better one. And I am a lot like my dad. People say we're two peas in a pod. We enjoy the same things. We whether it's food, whether it's hobbies, whether it's the way we treat people, we're givers, and we share the same birthday, October 24th. I mean, how blessed was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The power of I think the power of a positive and uplifting parent is so, man, it's just so important.
Yeah.
And
he struggled to get to where he was. For 3 decades, from the 60s to the 90s, he was the most prolific sports writer of his time. He wrote 31 books, authored them. He also published monthly magazines, Pro Football Scene, Hockey Scene, Baseball Scene, and Wrestling Scene, as well as Wrestling Illustrated. And he wrote about 4 columns for each of those magazines as well. So the man wrote anywhere between 10 and 20,000 columns. And one thing that Mike Tenay told me was that when he was growing up, he was a sports fan, but he also became a fan of the many authors. And one name that stood out was Lou Sahadi. And he wrote in the foreword to my dad's book, which will be available in about 2 weeks. The last line he said was, when I grew up, I didn't want to be Sandy Koufax. I wanted to be Lou Sahadi. And that just meant everything to me. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm just a 31-year younger version of him.
Oh, that's so cool. And that's what a compliment. And that's a wonderful compliment to get from anybody, but to get that from Mike Tenay, who I know we both think very highly of him, and anybody that speaks of Mike Tenay, like that's a very, very high praise. So it was 1992 that you got in the WWF then, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you throw out some names, and this is the era that people need to remember. It was, like you said, very cartoony. But what I know about you, and what really blew me away when I first met you, and people like, oh, like that's David Sahadi. Like when I first started working, I'm like, really? And I knew about, I'm going to say the legend of David Sahadi, because immediately what started coming to my mind was, that's the guy that was involved in the Raw opening. Like the Raw opening with the flames and the Austin walking through the fire and the rooftop. And
they were fun, Cody. They were fun,
dude. Like, so I'm gonna tell you the things that I want to hear about. I know fans want to hear about too. That's one. The Freddie Blassie voiceover work that you were orchestrated in. Major WrestleMania packages. Like these are etched in the memories of wrestling fans around the world. And there's people that are listening to this right now go, wait a minute, David Sahadi is the guy that did the Raw opening, like the classic Raw opening on the rooftop? Yes, he did. That's David Sahadi. Like, so to me, I know of the legend of David Sahadi. More people need to know, and I think more people are going to want to hear how that come about and what that whole Raw opening thing.
Pretty simple, because in the 90s and early 2000s, I was just doing things that nobody else was doing. And it's like, I remember people saying to me, higher up saying, well, we can't do that. We can't have explosions and somebody doing this. And I'm like, why not? And the person said, well, we've never done that before. I said, I know, exactly. That's why we're going to start doing things differently.
Hello, today we're going to talk about MJDUltimateSport.com. Yes, we all. My name is Eden, and we'll both tell you that my sister Hallie is going to read a special something. Reading that's on a white piece of paper. And we actually other people did this. My dad got it, so now let's just listen along and hear Hallie talk. One-on-one attention and tailored programs. Boutique fitness studio. Youth programs. Nutritional counseling.
Very good, Hallie. Thank you. I want to talk about nutritional counseling that MJD Ultimate Sport Training does. So this is my buddy Matt. Matt says this. This is a quote from my friend Matt. Listen to this. Strangely, I've had the most sustainable success with people who hated fitness due to what they perceived had to be done to achieve their goals. I can attest to this with Matt, that he had a lot of success with me and a bunch of other wrestlers. One other wrestler is Josh Alexander, a friend of mine. He goes to Matt. We have got nutritional counseling from him. So, do you guys know when you guys...
people that hate this stuff that's very mean, and...
I have no idea what you're talking about.
About the stuff you said!
No one hates the stuff that I said. What are you talking about?
I don't know, but did you know these words... On this side, they're just too small, but on the other side, on this other thing...
That's a whole other thing. I want to talk to you about ice cream. Do you like ice cream?
Yes.
What's your favorite flavor of ice cream? I stumped you. You can't even tell people your favorite flavor of ice cream? Every flavor? Okay,
yeah.
Eden likes every flavor. Hallie, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Black raspberry bugaboo.
Ooh, black raspberry bugaboo. And so you know how you guys like to eat ice cream for dessert?
Yep.
And you know how sometimes Daddy says, I can't have that ice cream? You know why? Because I'm doing nutritional counseling with...
Matt.
Yes, and his website is...
MJDUltrasport.com.
MJDUltimatesport.com.
Okay.
And he does nutritional counseling, so he has me eating only healthy things. But here's the cool thing about all of his nutritional counseling. He asked me what foods I like, and then he customized a program just for me based on the food that I already like and eat. So I get to eat more of the food that I like. Now, I love ice cream, and I'm allowed to have it sometimes, but not all the time when I'm maintaining my diet. So it's pretty awesome. I've been able to do this. I've been going to Matt for years, actually, and he's helped me immensely get in really good shape and get really, really strong, and to the point where I don't even crave ice cream anymore. I just crave the meals that Matt has given me in his nutritional counseling program, and he gives me lots of his time. He talks to me, he texts me, he calls me. He's actually extremely amazing at what he does.
Can I say something?
You can, but I got to finish this because I know that I want to make sure that people hear this.
Bye.
They can get a free consultation with Matt. They can call him right now, today, for free, a consultation by calling this phone number, and Hallie's going to give you the phone number. If they want to get nutritional advice, get a free consult, what number do they call here, Hallie?
647-987-8644.
Let's give them that number one more time. Eden, can you repeat after me? 647
647
987
987
86
8644.
44. Okay, thank you for this.
Can I say something now?
Yes, this is going to be one last thing, and then I got to get back to my interview with my special guest. But you're my guest right now, but I got to get back to my interview. So, what do you want to say?
I just want to say that since we're talking about ice cream,
Okay.
we're supposed to talk about the Wrestling Stadium.
The what?
The Wrestling Stadium about wrestling.
No, we're not. We're not. That was like weeks ago. We talked about Crazy Steve's Net Pro Studios. Now we're talking about Matt's MJDUltimateSport.com.
But since that's happening, we're not supposed to talk about ice cream. Hello? There's something I need to say. I like the word W because the best word to make in it is wrestling.
That was a very interesting thing. I don't know if I can have you girls on for a double commercial anymore. You guys are wild. Are you girls wild?
I just had to say that.
Oh, you almost knocked your tooth out with the mic. You're going to lose your front tooth here soon. Oh, you're going to lose both your front teeth soon. You already lost one.
The sound that the end of the letter of my name is, the sound of it is
Yes, because you're eating. Hey, do you guys want to stop doing this commercial and go in the hot tub now?
Yep, bye. Yeah.
Okay, that was quick. Yep, bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Hope you have fun with this thing. Yeah, so bye. We're gonna hope you eat things healthy. And everybody eat things healthy, like she just said, and have fun. And meet you back later, so bye.
And so we did. So I pushed them to push them. And I would do things. I had such a great creative freedom with Vince once I proved myself to him that he would let me do things like the legend spot with Freddie Blassie and Gorilla Monsoon without even running it by him. And I got two funny stories to tell you about that era if you got time.
Oh, I got all the time for this. Yeah, man.
One is, so John Filippelli is a person who hired me and brought me over there. And it was 8 weeks ago and back and forth. I wanted, NBC to come back and give me an offer, and they wouldn't. And so Flip is like, well, you got to make a decision, now, or we're going to go on and find somebody else. So I decided to go. And 2 weeks later, Flip got fired. And so did all these people that I knew. There were 15 employees from NBC that were working there for the World Bodybuilding Federation. I think it was called WWF. Lasted 1 year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Kevin Dunn calls me New York. My first task is to do the first opening for Raw and for Mania. And these are more computer-generated stuff. It wasn't until the second, third, and fourth ones that I did the organic, explosions going off, projections on the wall, ring of ropes on fire. But he goes, Sahadi, Flip, gone. So-and-so, gone. John Doe, gone. Jane Doe, gone. He ran down the list. It sounded like the end of The Godfather scene, where, Al Pacino's having everybody killed off. And I said, and he goes, so this opening better be good, because if it was up to me, your ass would be gone too, but Vince wants to give you one chance. And so we play the opening, and it's right now the first week in January, because 1993, because we're getting ready for the show that week. And they purposely play it low, I think, on intention, because they didn't want Vince to like it. But Vince sees it, and oh my gosh, when it was over, he just put his head down for a minute. Nobody's saying anything. And then he walks over to the coffee machine and gets a cup of coffee, and everybody's silent and goes with the sweet and low. There's one, there's two, there's three. And he walks over there and he goes, play it again. And when it's over, he looks up and goes, for 2 minutes, nobody's saying anything. And then he goes, what do you all think? And Bruce goes, well, I like it. It's different. And somebody goes, yeah, that music's pretty cool too, especially with the police alarms at the end. Yeah. And those many layers of video. We've never done that before. And it's like, good, go, we'll use it. So that felt like my job. I was saying, oh, damn, did I make a mistake leaving NBC and coming here? I thought I was going to be shoved away out the door at that point.
Wow. That must have been like the longest 2 minutes of your life, man.
2 minutes. Well, it was two 2-minute spots, and it felt like 10 minutes each. And I'm there saying, okay, well, maybe I can get my job back there. I can always do this. I can always do that. I don't know. But Another story is with the Freddie Blassie spot, the Legends. I think you all have known about that one. The one that
I know about
I
that
don't,
one.
I
Yeah,
don't, need, I
we'll
don't
hear.
need to go into detail about that one then, but that was just like something where Vince called Kevin and said, "What this one I gained Vince's trust. What's Sahadi doing in Albany with the old timers?" And Kevin goes, "I don't know, but he's got a good track record." And Vince says, "It better be good because we're about the new generation right now." So without going into detail, since the story's been told,
No. Tell me, like, everyone wants to hear this. This is good. Because I
so,
know this. Yeah. If
so
whenever you're
Vince,
willing to tell this, yeah,
Vince
please do.
comes down into the audio suite, and
Okay.
he has his arms folded like this. He won't even look at me. I'm already good with Vince. If he didn't like the spot, it didn't matter. I was not going to get fired. But he's there with Shane and Pat Patterson. And 10 seconds in, the first line is, "I can still hear the echoes cheering my name. Time has not silenced the crowd." All of a sudden, Vince goes, "Oh, God. Oh, geez," as the spot's going. "Oh, geez. Oh, no." And he leaves the room right before the tag page comes up. And I turn to Shane and say, "Shane, what does that mean?" And Shane smiles and goes, "You got him, Sahadi. You got him." And I walk outside the door and I saw Vince is sitting on the cement floor, crying, saying, thank you so much. Thank you. I walk upstairs and I talk to Kevin Dunn, and Kevin Dunn goes, "Great, I can't wait to see it." And then 10 minutes later, I walked down the hallway to the main part of the thing, and Vince was sitting on the steps there, still crying and saying, "Thank you, thank you." And I wasn't sure why that spot affected him so much, Cody, until about 2 years later, I would say. But the spot that I did was a passing of the torch from the older guys that were men of steel to the younger guys that could walk the top rope and fly through the air. And then it hit me that for Vince, it probably hit him on a visceral level because he took it as a passing of the torch from Vince Sr. to Vince Jr. and how much better Vince Jr. made it compared to his father. And so I think, I mean, I don't know, but that's makes the most sense to me that it hit Vince really deeply on that level because Vince had no idea what the spot was about. He knows about passing the torch, but he saw that, felt that for the first time, and he was so touched by it. So that really was one of my finest days there. Just knowing that I can get Vince to, emotionally cry.
So that's such an amazing story. Something is standing out to me that keeps coming to my mind with both those stories, Sahadi, is you said you do this raw opening, the ropes are on fire and everything's more organic. And you said that we never did anything like that before.
Yeah.
And then you've got this Freddie Blassie thing where, you said, well, it better be good because we're focusing on the new generation. And so the people are doing, they want to focus on that, but you're taking this risk of bringing in an old timer. Like I've heard, and I think most wrestling fans have heard that Vince likes to surround himself with yes men.
Of course it is, yeah.
Right. So I think the safe route from going from that understanding is play it safe, be a yes man, and then just toe the line and play it safe. But both of those decisions that have become iconic things are you deciding to not play safe. Mm-hmm. I think that's a characteristic that you have. Do you and I think that's an important life lesson for young people to hear and know is to not play it safe.
Playing it safe is boring. It's vanilla. I get no excitement out of playing it safe. I like to do things that are outside the box and different. I like to make people think in a different and certain way that they never think before. I just like to push the minds of people, especially when it comes to non-work stuff, just about, what's important in life. What is your purpose? Find your purpose and you'll find, what you're meant to do here. Talking about things spiritual, it's just, I always like thinking beyond the norm. I don't like to take things at face value. So playing safe is the easy way to stay with Vince, but I knew the company needed something different. They needed change and needed a rebranding and an overhaul. And we did it incrementally. It didn't all happen at once, but we did that. And I like to say I was one of the first pioneers of doing that just by the promotions I was doing.
So
I did spots with The Rock where he's arguing with Santa Claus in a toilet. There's an overhead shot of Santa Claus giving him the finger, I did where the wrestlers were fish out of water. It's like they're in their wrestling gear, but they're at a fine restaurant dining. Or the Brock Lesnar spot with the takeoff on Jaws, where everybody's on the beach and the guy yells, "Shark, shark, get out of the water," you know, and like you have everybody running out, and there's Brock in his gear running in, diving in, and giving an F5 on the damn shark, you know. Something about seeing wrestlers in their gear in a place where they shouldn't be, I think, is hysterical. I'd love to do some spots like that in the future, like a guy going through an airport, and he can't get to the metal detector because, you know, something's on his gear, has all this metal on there. Just things like that, Cody. They're entertaining because, and I started doing those spots, Cody, with the monthly pay-per-view spots. And what these pay-per-view spots were, they were whenever a cable company like Comcast had like extra time because they couldn't fill out commercial time, they would promote they'd run a pay-per-view spot because people, you know, they would make money off pay-per-view buys. So I had the idea one day. I'm like, hey, you know what? This is a way to reach an audience that's not a wrestling audience. If it's a wrestling audience, I'm writing a different spot. But now I'm writing for people who are watching ESPN, TBS, CNN, whatever. So I want them to walk away. You know, the beginning of every spot I usually did back then was, you know, what the spot was about until the end. Some people would say, "Oh my God, that was a very creative spot. I don't like wrestling, but you know what? I really like that spot." And the more they would see that, it would get them to eventually check us out. I remember I did a spot that was airing during the baseball season. The event was No Mercy, and I had a bunch of baseball players dressed up like Yankees. I knew the Yankees were going to go to the World Series that year, or at least go very far.
Yeah.
And we had the voice of the Yankees, the iconic John Sterling, who is still working today, bless his soul, at 84, say, "Bottom of the ninth, it all comes down to this for the big red machine." And all of a sudden the camera pans over and you see it's Kane at bats. And there's the Yankees, and he takes a mighty swing where you have 3 shots, a sound effect of like a grand slam, flash tubes going off. The fans all rise, and you see it's a little dribble to the mound. And John goes, "This could be it." And as he's rounding first base, he gets speared by as Kane is rounding first base, Ed Spears, one of the baseball players. So the Hardy Boys do come up the ladders and take out the second baseman on one side and the third baseman on the other. Farouk is hitting the third baseman with a garbage can. And finally, the manager throws the mascot out there, and Kane just mauls him over and it's like, "WWE wins! WWE wins!" So if you're not a wrestling fan but you're a baseball fan, you can look at that spot and you can laugh your ass off. And that's how I branded us outside the wrestling world. I think that's what helped us grow as well. And it's what I'd like to do right now, but I don't think many wrestling companies are in the area where, hey, let's do something that's, you know, out of the box. It doesn't promote the wrestling event hardcore as this, you know, big pay-per-view event. So I'd like to get back to something.
So there's 2 things that stand out to me from that. One is I can't wait to talk to my son, who is 10 years old, as soon as we get off this line, because my son came up to me literally yesterday, Sahadi, and said, "Dad, I was watching YouTube videos and I watched this thing where there's people are on a beach and then Brock Lesnar goes into the water and he gives an F5 to the shark." And he was putting it over like it was the best thing he's ever seen in his life.
Oh, I love your son. I want to meet him.
Oh, gosh, I can't wait to tell him. Guess what, buddy? Like I just talked, and I'm good friends with. I just talked to the guy that created that. Like, that's gonna blow his mind. Which is so. That's one. But 2, did you want to say something about that? You can, by all means.
Something similar about that. Okay. It was Ric Flair's last match last summer.
Okay.
And I had the honor and privilege of directing that show. And I thought we did a killer job. Conrad Thompson was very happy too. And I remember at the end of the event, I went backstage and it was crowded, but the Undertaker was there. I said hello. I said hello to Bret Hart. I said hello to Mick Foley. I'm talking with them. And then when it was over, a bunch of wrestlers in their 20s came up to me, you know, and they're still in their gear and like, "Excuse me, but are you the David Sahadi?" And again, at this point in my stage, I'm humble right now. I have no ego. I'm like, "Yeah, yes, I am." You know, like, "I'm here because of you." And I'm like, "How are you here because of me?" Because I had nothing to do with booking of the show. And they said, "No, you don't understand. Watching those videos growing up in the 90s made me want to become a wrestler. So because of your work, I am here today." So, Cody, people like you and I have the ability to influence millions of people that we'll never even meet in our lives. So why not do it in a positive way? I mean, we have a lot of power, and it really didn't hit me until that night. the power of what we do has on other people who are viewers, who are watchers, who are fans.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that, man. That's one of my speech titles, actually, when I travel around to young and speak to young people. Is the title of it is The Power of Influence, and I have a whole presentation just really about essentially what you just said. You know, it's if we can keep that in our mind.
Mhm.
If we can keep that in our mind while still doing the thing that we're passionate about,
Mhm.
there's nothing better in the world, man. There's
No,
nothing
right.
better in the world, right? Like
Yeah.
to be able to have that's so
Yeah.
that's so amazing. So these guys are influenced by you because of your creativity and your creative process, which is something I'm really fascinated about, because everybody has a different creative process, whether it's a wrestler just getting ready for their match,
Yeah.
or a producer that's helping, a couple of wrestlers put together a match,
Mhm.
or someone who's got to write a pre-tape or whatever it may be. What's your creative process? Is it always the same? Is it different? Like,
It's different, but there's one common thread.
That's going to do it for another episode of Wrestling is Life is Wrestling with Cody Deaner, and my part 1 conversation with my friend David Sahadi. What did I tell you guys? This guy has done it all. He's a guru. That's what I said at the top of the show. This guy is like a wrestling, producing, directing guru. He has done it all. And just what a wonderful, pleasant man. You can see why this guy's my friend. I hit it off right away with Sahadi when we were doing production stuff together at Impact Wrestling, and I just love the guy. He's just such an amazing man, and has a plethora of wrestling knowledge, a plethora of stories, and such a good life view, world view, kind of just overall positive attitude. And I think it's so important that we surround ourselves with positive people, and a positive person that I have intentionally surrounded myself with in the wrestling business is my buddy David Sahadi. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please go to @Sahadi3. That's SAHADI 3. And let David Sahadi know what you thought of today's conversation. What's the number one takeaway that you really enjoyed from today's conversation? Let me know too, @Cody Deaner on Instagram. Let us both know, and we will interact with you, because that's one of the great things about this new project I'm doing. I've been interacting with so many new fans and listeners, and I appreciate each and every one of you, especially those that have joined Patreon over at patreon.com/Cody Deaner, that have listened to not just part 1, but you've already listened to next week's part 2 with David Sahadi because you signed up to become a patron at patreon.com/Cody Deaner. You got next week's episode already early and ad free, and you got to listen to the very insightful and amazing conversation that I had next week already with David Sahadi. If you can't support that, then maybe you can support me through prowrestlingtees.com/Cody Deaner. Maybe you can go get a cameo at cameo.com/Cody Deaner. If you can't do that, but you want to get some really wicked, awesome swag, hey, check out Rest When Dead Clothing at restwhendead.ca or at restwhendeadclothing on Instagram, and check out their cool swag. They are a proud sponsor of this show and me in general in my wrestling travels. That's going to do it for another episode of Wrestling is Life is Wrestling. I am super excited for you guys to hear part 2. Let your friends know about this show. Keep supporting, keep commenting, keep rating and reviewing and subscribing, and I'll read it here on this show. Thank you guys for joining us this week. We will see you next week for part 2 with my buddy David Sahadi on Wrestling is Life is Wrestling. See you next week, guys.
Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life is wrestling.